Stay stitch one beveled edge of each piece of fabric. Seam allowances are 1/4 of an inch. Stay stitches are always positioned between the seam allowance and the cut edge of the fabric. It's time to line the quilt back, and I'm going to do this. This is a stay stitch edge. I'm going to position the other stay stitch edge of the lining over the stay stitch edge of the back. And notice the right side of the back is facing the lining because we're going to line it inside out. And then I'm going to simply join these two pieces along their long edge. Regular stitch length are smaller, and I do back stitch even if I use a smaller stitch length, because when I flip these and iron them, sometimes some of the stitches come out. The lining is not as big as the back, and that's fine. You just pull it so that the raw edges meet, and line up the raw edges and sew them together 1/4 of an inch from the edge with back stitching. This piece won't lie flat, and that's totally fine. You just line up the sides and sew them together. Remember to leave the corners unsewn. When all 4 sides of your quilt back are sewn to your quilt back lining, you're going to pull the fabric through the opening that's been stay stitched. And when I do this, a lot of times I start turning it and then I twist the piece to compress it and push it through. I've lined and flipped the back of my table runner in the center and the 2 side pieces. Now I've got to press them. And it always looks nicer if these seam allowances are pressed before the rest of the project is completed. So I'm going to take a long wooden dowel or a bamboo knitting needle that's very large, and I'm going to insert it between the lining and the back piece. And I'm going to roll the seam allowances, the white part of the fabric that you can see on this ridge. I'm going to roll it so it moves towards the center, and if it isn't there, I kind of push it that way, and then I'm just going to iron right along the ridge. And sometimes you kind of have to pull it and force it. When you've completed pressing the seam allowances, you'll notice that the outside back fabric rolls towards the lining, and that's exactly what you want. So then you're going to press the entire piece, trying to maintain a kind of equal ratio between each side of the rollover. Sometimes you can't, don't worry about it too much, but if you can get these edges so they look almost equal, you'll be very happy with the results. When this is done, I'm going to do the same thing on the side panels. Once your piece is ironed, you have to install some dots on the piece at the corner, these 5 dots. You have to do that because it helps guide you when joining this center piece to the 2 side pieces. I'm going to zoom in on this area here so you can see how I position the quilt template. You can see that my quilt template is facing up, so I can easily read ECQ, and I'm going to position this so that this tip here is right on the edge of my fabric here, and then there are numbers, and if there's a number 3 over on this side, the fabric should be equal distance from the same number on this side. So this is a little bigger than 3, it's between 3 and 4. And I'm going to position that, and then I'm just going to drop some marks into these dots, and these dots will help me join the quilt pieces. Also, I'm going to draw these lines. These lines will help guide you when folding the fabric under to make the beveled edges. Before I zoom out, notice that there are 5 dots. The one at the very top is the one I'm going to use to determine my stitching line. A line drawn joining one top dot to the other top dot will be an indication of my stitching line when I join pieces together. I've drawn a line joining this top dot to this top dot, and I'm going to do it over here on this side. These lines joining the top dots are actually the stitching lines used when sewing these 2 pieces together. If I was going to join pieces to the top, I would join the top dots here as well. But I'm not going to sew anything to the top. I'm just drawing a dashed line to show you. I won't be joining anything to the top, so it's a waste of time to add that. I only need one side, and I need to do the other side on the large piece and one side on the other side piece. It's really sloppy. I'm getting ready to finally join the back to my patchwork piece to make this table runner. But before I do, I want to fold the pieces together and try and determine, as best I can, the centers of the table runner back, because I'm going to use this as a guide for positioning my piece work onto the table runner. And remember, I'm using a marking pen that's heat sensitive, so it comes out with an iron. Make sure any marking devices you use on these pieces is removable.